welcome to the Quarantine Room Podcast. I will be your host, Vince Falsone, and I will be joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Maurice McGlynn.
Also Vestry.
Eric Castellanos.
And Mazabin Yasmin.
The focus of today's podcast will be artificial intelligence, and will be presented by Kyle Silvestri.
So my topic is artificial intelligence, and to begin with, what is artificial intelligence, and is it good for us in the future? Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processed by machines, especially computer systems, where they can register all types of information from our voices to our fingerprints to our irises and everything, all of that. So we see artificial intelligence all across the world. We could see it in our daily lives as well, where one example is Tesla and their cars, where it can drive itself autonomously. So how the Tesla cars work is it has cameras and uses GPS and maps or its location in order to drive itself. So it would use the cameras to read its surroundings and just it would program itself, or not program itself, but design its or choose its destination. So whenever it sees a stop sign, it would register that and pause the brakes. Whenever it sees a stop sign, or a stoplight, it would see the colors and decide what to do with that action. We also have Google search bar. So whenever you type something into Google search bar, you would type H, right, or how, and it would register all types of sentences that you might add to it. So it could be how is the weather, and then it would automatically do what is the weather today, how is the weather tomorrow, how is the weather this weekend. And we also have that in autocorrect, where it does, when you type a word, it would automatically put 3 words of what you might put in, or it might fit the sentence. And then also with Amazon, where if you buy something off of Amazon, it would use your personalized information and take in all that information and would give you specified items that you might buy from them, and that would contribute to their net worth and all of that. But the reason why we need artificial intelligence for societies right now is because we could program it to make our lives easier. All those things, it makes life easier. We would be able to just automatically be able to do those things except for another button. We could just program it to simply just make coffee for us, remind us to get our stuff, remind us to get our daily needs. So there are a bunch of pros and cons to artificial intelligence. And one of those pros that are really important for us is there would be less of a chance of an error occurring. Since you program the AI, you would program to do specifically what it needs to do. There would be no error. There would be no stopping in what it needs to do. It would do basically what it's programmed to do and nothing to be involved with it. And then artificial intelligence would never get tired. It would be able to work continuously 24/7, needing no workers to be there. You would be able to manufacture goods at a constant rate of 24 hours with no stopping, being able to improve society and the amount of goods we have. And then also the small details in life, reminders and necessities that you need. And it would also be able to replace tasks that are repetitive. So it would be able to just make coffee, be able to remind you of your emails, all of that. And then there are also the cons of artificial intelligence is the high unemployment rate that it would spark or spike, because since AI would be taking over jobs, there would be people outraged by it, and then there would be less people in jobs, and then making people have less money. So some jobs that may be taken over by AI is telemarketers, where they obviously call you and tell you all the information they want to speak out, but that can be easily replaced by AI, where they would just record a voice and it would send it to a person at any time they want, and it could do it for how many long they want. And then, there's a problem with AI where it lacks creativity. Where if you want to say make an artificial intelligence that draw something for you, or make something specific, it wouldn't be able to do that, because you have to program it to specify what it exactly needs to do, and it won't be able to add in the small details that people want. Say you buy from a place that makes artificial drawings, right? It would draw a specific thing, but it wouldn't be able to add these small details that the consumer would want unless you program it in. And then there could be also a problem with the artificial intelligence itself. It's not exactly perfect. People make it, so there would obviously be an error within the AI at some point. And then that could interrupt like people's lives. Like it could be like a small problem, but if it fails and like that problem like occurs on someone, it could just ruin someone's day. It could be the smallest thing. Like especially like driving cars. If there's an error in there, it could be the risk of someone's life. And that's all the information I have. So what are you guys' opinions on it?
So you mentioned cars, right? So when you reference like cars could actually like, end up killing people. Are you referencing like to when Tesla had that malfunction in their early stages?
Yeah, I'm referencing to that.
Mm.
Like if it would like register a stop sign as like no a green like a red stop sign as like not a red stop sign but a red stoplight as a stop sign, or like I mean like a different color. I mean it would just like go and then make an error. That would be important to someone's life. It could like eventually kill them.
Okay,
So how much?
so I understand that, but what I really wanted to focus on was the lack of jobs to, people. So that being said about like AIs, being the new generation and things like that, right? So where would you like put all these people who don't have jobs now? Since our unemployment rate will be like exponentially high, and rapidly increasing because of AI is just being cheaper and you don't have to pay them for manual labor. Where do you
What
think these people would go?
Well, that's the problem. See, there would be like an increase in people being unemployed, right? So then, but also AI creates jobs because there would be like, say we get like robotic humans, right? We could have people be able to clean those people, or like the robotic humans, and then be able to like work on their parts. They could still be able to do like some jobs, but majority of jobs will be replaced. But people who get unemployed will have to like work different
But
jobs
see,
instead. I don't really
somebody could
know.
counter and say that, like, well, you could just build more robots to do those things. Like, what's the use of having humans do manual labor now since we have robots to do everything for us?
Well, you're gonna have someone that needs to build those robots that will build those other robots. So either way, you're gonna have some new industry of manual labor or form of labor.
I mean, don't you think like people would start being more lazy in a way because they have a helper with them all the time, or at least if those who can afford and rely on it.
Yeah, that's a problem with current society probably.
Well, actually, I do have an opinion on that, honestly. So I do think that in a way, it would make people lazy, but it would also give like life to jobs that were at one point maybe like not reachable for some people. Like let's say being a computer scientist or a computer engineer, right? Those are pretty difficult jobs that take a lot of training, but would now have a resurgence of like people needing to do them. For the most part, robots just take like the boring, laborious jobs that people don't want, like farming. 99% of the population at one point was farming, or well, 90% of the population was farming, and then the other 10% were doing things, whatever that may be. But that was the population. Now less than like 1% of people actually do farming now. That predominantly is an android or a AI focused job, just because they're better at doing topics and jobs that are super mass produced, let's say, or like can be done at maximum capacity through a robot rather than through a person who may make an issue or do something that may ultimately cost somebody their life if they're making, let's say, like airplane parts. If they do one faulty weld, that whole airplane might come apart.
That's true. That is true. I do agree with you on that. That does make sense.
Well, then, wouldn't you think that more schools would be needed? Like, well, would be incentivized to put more like computer programming and something along those lines into their like education or standard
Oh,
education.
oh,
Well, wouldn't that
definitely.
help us our
Yeah,
education?
Well,
Because
it
we
well,
have
would help our education, but like,
yeah,
wouldn't
that's
it
one
be
thing.
for
But,
like
like, don't
a
you think
specific
like
thing?
schools would have to do that, or do you think it would just still be like a optional thing in college?
I think like a
optional.
higher education would be like more mandatory because, or maybe not mandatory, but like pursued more. You know?
What, to become a teacher or like?
No, for learning computer science, robotics, and all that type of stuff, mechanical engineering, computer engineering.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that would be more of a popular career in the future
Oh,
because
yeah,
of
it would be
this?
a more popular career because it's the main focus now. It would be the main focus. It would be like everyone would be in need for that job. It'd be the most important job, so more people would be hiring for it.
But don't you think that at some point there's gonna be a surplus of workers there that can no longer be able to fit the criteria needed to be in that job?
Well,
Like
then they
that.
wouldn't have to necessarily work on AI. They could work on different parts like that. Well, it's just not the main focus would be AI, but like there's still small parts that people can work on.
No,
Like they could work on like apps still. People could still do that. They could still work on games to make.
I understand that, but it's also like right now we're really in the modern world. We're like really putting emphasis on computers and and like getting further into the future. But like we ourselves don't really know like the maximum or the like the threshold that we have as people yet. Like especially in other industries.
I do understand what you're saying, but it's similar to the other idea to where, well, yes, obviously, like as time goes on, the job of being a computer scientist or a computer engineer will be just that workforce will be just so massive that it won't be needed anymore because then just as easily as humans can do programming, computers can do it 10 times better, 10 times faster, 10 times, more efficient, just with better quality. And I feel like those then obviously that's like the scary part about AI is, oh well, those robots who were once required that once required a human to do, the labor in creating them, they don't need that
Will
anymore.
be able to do it
They
on
can
their
they can do
own,
it by
right?
themselves.
Well, I still feel like there would still be humans in work, like because there could just still be people like customers that want human workers to be with them instead of a robot. Because why would you want a robot that has no emotions or empathy towards you, talking to you? Would you want to have someone like talking to you like face to face and having like a verbal connection where you could just talk to someone human like? I
Well,
feel like
do
that
you
would be
personally
important to
think?
you.
Well, don't
I
you think?
mean, think about cost efficiency. Would you rather pay a human or just have a robot you just have to power? I mean,
But the
what
thing
would you
is,
prefer?
what's the limit? Like you can't just have everything AI related because there's people who need employment, but you can't have like in the future, not everything's gonna be digital, and so like not everyone can do it. Like there's a qualification to do it. So like, what would be the limit to like how many AI system that can work on certain stuff and normal people doing work?
What you're saying, like there should be only like a certain amount of robotics or robots in a place to work at?
Like yeah, in a way, because like if you think about it, like technologically all AIs can do all of the jobs, right? But like it's about the people and the customers who are willing to like buy and take it for themselves. So like if it's always the AIs that's just doing the job, don't you think like people wouldn't people would find that boring because they don't see like normal workers using those technology to help.
But I mean, at the time, well, like, let's just say that AI are very prominent, like, in the future, right? That would be the normal. It wouldn't be normal to have like a person working at the front desk. You would just go up to an eye, swipe their card, and you'd have your stuff. That would be normal for them, you know?
Yeah, that's an
Yeah,
interesting point. But like, and also like with Kyle, what he said earlier with like emotion, if and what you said, if we normalize uh those robots and those AIs, and we see that they're like not well, they can't experience emotion, they can't have emotion. Like we're gonna become accustomed to that, especially if it goes on for generations. At some point, we'll find it as like, hey, it's just like an everyday thing, like our phones. Find that everyday thing.
Yeah, but
Emotion.
wouldn't that make
We
it
find
more
it as
like
what?
wouldn't it make it more like rare to have someone talk to you like and have that empathy with you? Wouldn't that feel nice to have like a once in a lifetime like rare moment happen to you?
Okay,
Well,
yeah, that I agree with because then everyone's just gonna be stuck with their computer and technology without like having actual real life interactions with normal people.
I
No,
mean,
yeah,
but isn't
that's
that kind of
understandable.
like the problem now? Like, it's not
Exactly,
as severe
exactly.
as no, but like think about it. So 40, 60 years ago, we didn't have cell phones like how we have them now. Human interaction was like that's just, what we do. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have Instagram, Facebook. We didn't have online games. We didn't have Xbox, PS4, PCs to play on, do things. And then now that's just normal for our generation. If you think about it, we're Generation Z, right? We're the only generation that grew up with the internet. So things are bound to be different for us than it is for like millennials, baby boomers.
Yeah, I so
So
agree
I
with
think that's
that.
kind of the thing with, AI in the future.
I mean, like, I'm down to play devil's advocate here. Um, I agree that in a way, like, we'll crave that like social interaction, but maybe we won't. What if we just don't? What if as society continues and progresses, what if we no longer value that idea that being with somebody or being near somebody or talking to somebody really matters at all? What if I can have a conversation with my android and we can have a discussion, a higher order thinking kind of situation? I would rather have that discussion than with somebody who would be not as maybe intellectually sufficient. I would prefer that personally. That's just
I
my
mean,
thing.
Well, yeah,
yeah, the
I
that's a
thing
get
valid
it.
is,
point.
in
And
in
it
today's
Humans are social
society,
creatures.
and
yeah,
like
in today's society, we're already like struggling. We're already evolving to the point that like we don't talk in person. So like in a way, it is beneficial that like you can have a conversation with the technology that can just give you the answers and have a very intellectual conversation. But like people wouldn't be doing normal life stuff. Everyone would be lazy. Everyone would be home and all
But
that.
once again,
Everyone
that
would be
brings us back to like that would be normal for them.
Exactly.
yeah, and
So
also
it would seem odd for us, but technically we're in the past. We're talking about the future.
Yeah.
That would be normal for them. I
yep.
mean, humans are social creatures, and by nature we want to talk to someone or something, right? That can empathize or like that we can relate to. It doesn't matter if it's like hell, you could talk to an animal and be like, "Oh, it's so cute. Hello, little animal friend."
Exactly. And you're still
And
getting that
that'll be your
same.
social
But
Yeah.
interaction.
Yep,
what
You
would
yep.
know,
happen
you
to
could do the same thing
family?
with
Like
computers.
you can't have a family eventually. You know what I'm saying? If you're saying it's gonna be so normalized and everything, how are you gonna like meet the one or like have a
Well, what if
family?
that?
You don't
Well,
even know
to be
if like the
fair,
one is still gonna be a thing at that time.
yeah,
It's
That's
like
the problem
recently,
with like thinking about the
millennials
future.
and Gen Z, we were less likely to get like married, especially at a younger age. So it's
Then
like,
eventually the human population would increase decrease.
well, yeah,
but that would
and
be that would be
honestly, that
fine.
that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
That really would
Because
be a
right
benefit for
now
us.
we're a very overpopulated
Yeah. In a
species.
way.
We've pushed ourselves past the bounds of the carrier line.
Yeah. You could say
Yeah,
that.
like it's
Sort of,
like
yeah.
because we're it's seen everywhere. We can definitely we're using more resources that the of the Earth than the Earth can put back in a year.
Yeah,
Our
we're
Earth
using more
day,
resources that we don't really need
yep,
for it.
especially, and it's like it's not like people don't want to stop it. It's just like we've become so accustomed to it, and it's so hard to actually advocate for change that the
We'd be
people,
hypocrites if we did, because all of us were using computers, right? We have cars, things like that.
yeah,
We just
and
be
it's
hypocrites.
like we even though we're like the people, the majority, we kind of don't have that same power. We don't have that same voice as people that own those big businesses, those conglomerates that they can like make those type of agreements with the government. They can have that influence with the government. You know?
Okay, so Kyle, from your research, have you found anything that's gonna, because these are robots and AI and a lot of like electronic and electricity will go into it, how much do you think it's gonna affect Earth? Not like the population, but like Earth and nature itself.
I actually didn't find any research about that, but there is like research about like how people feel about robots and how they would like how they would feel about having them in the workplace. Or like there's a in my research it says like 54% people would prefer to have someone to be like human with them.
Wait, could you repeat
I
that?
mean,
Yeah, give me a second. Like it was in one of these researches that said that people would prefer to have, or like in factory jobs, they would prefer to have a human next to them or like be working with them than a robot.
Hmm.
Some people would be there would be people opposed to it, but there's majority was that they would prefer to have that.
That like to me at least, it sounds like that harkens back to like the empathy kind of situation there. Like I don't want to talk to somebody who like their decision on something would be purely based on the right and wrong or like the most profitable outcome, let's
logical.
say. Like maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want somebody who, let's say if I get stuck in like the meat grinder, they'll pull me out. Like, that's what I want, right? I don't really care about the robot that's like, oh, you could stay in there, right? That's not what you want
Or like
somebody.
it's not beneficial to me, or like
Yeah,
it's
It's
not
not
exactly.
logical
beneficial to the
Precisely.
company
because I
because
can't help you. You
that
know.
AI will have to take time from its like of whatever job it's doing to help you, and it might not even have like the capabilities to even help you. So it would just watch you die while it's still working, and
Yeah,
to
like
it
there
would
has
have
to
no
be
remorse,
a
no
lot
anything.
of
Yeah,
there has
depending
to
on
be
its
a lot
programming, like
of
if it's focused on like manufacturing, it'll be like what's more beneficial, saving you or production? That's what I'm
because
programmed for,
the
production.
AI needs like real life realization as well as feelings. So like if they're affectionate towards you, or like they know like you are like uh an ally or something like that, then it will need to like have the realization to help, to know that, oh, this person is in danger. That takes a lot of programming and a lot of time consuming thing.
I mean, but
Well,
how would
Kyle,
you even implement human emotion into an AI? Like,
Ah,
say,
yes.
like robotic warfare, right?
Yes.
How would that work?
All right.
I
So
don't get it.
let me take it for a second. So the idea of like having, so it's like it's called the Turing test, right? Which is how you can gauge whether or not a robot has like empathy. It like in a situation like, let's say if a robot was was required to decide whether or not to kill a human or a robot, right? If that robot was given that scenario, would it choose to kill the human because it's not as, sufficient or it's not as efficient as the robot would be? Or would it kill the robot because it recognizes empathy that the robot in essence isn't alive? The human is. The human has a life, it has, feelings and emotions, but that robot doesn't. That robot can just be remade, or just it wouldn't matter if it was gone or not. That's the
But
Turing
then if you
test.
would have to think about like the robot itself, right? So would it have an idea about its own self? Like, what does it feel? Like, that's what I don't get. Like,
Yeah,
how would you ever program something like that?
Or like
How can you
self-awareness.
program somebody self-aware? Yeah, self-awareness. Personality traits, things like that.
How you can do it
well,
is like, since well AI just like takes in, you just shove a bunch of information into it and then uses that information to like give examples of how to work. So I
yeah.
guess people, you would like submit people's like how they feel or like their brainwaves and like see how that affects them, and that would like affect their work, how they would feel.
The
But I feel
sit-
like they still wouldn't have emotions though.
yeah, it's well, that's the problem, right? When a computer like gains sentience, or like an AI gains sentience, that's when there's a problem, right? Because then that means that robot can understand what,
Choose wrong
like,
or choose
exactly.
right. It could choose whatever it
There
wants to
have
do.
been
You know?
yeah, there have been many cases in which like the big AIs that exist now, because AI for the most part is pretty bad, like still. For the most part, it's like you can ask it a question and then it'll give you like an answer, and like a variation of that question, it would still give you an answer. But there have been cases where certain AI actually created a programming language to speak to each other. There were two
oh
programming
yeah, I know what you're
languages,
talking about.
and then they spoke to each other, and they discussed on how the humans looked like they were very inefficient, and in essence they could be exterminated since they pose no threat to robots in any way, because there's no like you can't turn off an AI technically, right? Because it's like the level just below sentience is an AI. It understands information and it
Mm.
could like give you an answer, but it doesn't recognize that it is like like anything. It's like I exist. So
And I think that's what people are like so weary about AI and
oh
things
yeah,
like that because it doesn't it doesn't have a like how to say it? It doesn't have the emotion to like
empathy.
comprehend that a living thing is beautiful, you know? Like to have a living creation or for something to be born or grow, like that is amazing, right? It
Yeah,
doesn't
because
have
eventually,
it can't compute it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it
because
understands how the process works, but it doesn't understand value. Yes, that's what I meant, value.
yeah, like because eventually through evolution, the robots are gonna take humans as enemies. So like they will go to the measure of are they an enemy or are they not? Do I like annihilate them? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, do you think like the
Because
robots themselves or AI will you evolve to that point on themselves, or would it be because of
I
human
mean,
error?
Oh,
Because humans
100%
just
human error.
tried too much.
Yeah,
Human
yeah,
error,
100%.
human
definitely.
error,
Because if they're
definitely.
right now thinking that with just the few that we have, that we are not that powerful compared to them and how insensitive
And we wouldn't
that
be.
can be,
They're smarter,
they
and
can
among other
definitely
things, you know?
outlaw us, like eventually.
Well, couldn't we
Yeah,
just program it
I
to just
definitely think
have
that.
humans as allies, like see them as peaceful beings? Wouldn't we be able to just do that and like
But you're like
wouldn't have to worry
you
about it realizing us as enemies?
I
Well,
But
what
then,
if it's so
if you think
advanced it's
about it,
able to change its own programming?
yeah, that makes
That can happen. And let's say you, the owner of the AI, have programmed that and your AI thinks you're good, but if someone else does something to the owner, the AI is gonna take him and other people as enemies. Like you never know what could go wrong.
Well, I think it's
did you
how it
guys
matters
ever?
on how you program it. Like I think
This sounds a lot like oh, sorry,
Oh,
go
okay,
Tyler.
I think how like it might work in the future is that they're not gonna make like AIs as like one AI is gonna control the entire like entire job force. So I think they would have like specific AIs for different job forces. So like an AI for cooking, it would only be based on cooking, and then it would be able to like prepare stuff and like AI for police force. They would have like specific like robots that determine whether someone's hostile and all of that. I think
well,
that's how
how
it
would
would
they
work.
be able to determine that though?
Well, like
If it's
you
hostile.
would I think cameras would work well with that. Like you would see like the people's like emotions, like their facial, like how they're reacting to
well
it.
Then how would people like how many AIs can one person have? Like, one person can think I could buy and own as many as I want for my house to be efficient, like for cooking and protection and etc.
It'd be a lot.
Even cleaning at this point,
Exactly, like exactly. Even cleaning, we
or
have like
childcare.
robotic vacuums that works by itself when you just turn on. So it's like it's just gonna
Well,
be like a
It's like
lot
we can
cost
see it now
efficient.
that the world is moving in that direction, you know?
well,
Exactly.
do
Look
you
at
think
Japan.
if AIs get to that point, like they should be treated equal to people?
What do you mean equal to people? Like see
Like
them as the
if
same
they are
value?
able to get to that point of sentience where they can understand that they're like something in a physical world and they have like impacts and stuff like that, do you think they deserve to be treated as a human being, or would they
But
still
they
be treated
can't
as
do
nothing?
that because unless like self-destruct or like destruction, you're just gonna turn it off.
But what if you
Like
can't turn it off? Like what if we push AI to that point where it was indistinguishable from a human?
then,
But we would have to make like countermeasures to it. Like at some point we would like
yeah.
distinguish. We would have at least have like one point where we could
See,
easily
it's
touch
like
it to stop it.
because
Well,
if
yeah,
we
Have
but
you
have
then
guys
our lives
everything would rely on human error
yeah,
because
basically.
exactly,
that's like that's like a completely perfect scenario. Like let's say, oh yeah, we built something into every single AI or robot or whatever that if we just press this one button, yeah, they would all shut off. But like, what if the AI is so advanced? You're like, yo, that's not how it works anymore. Where we ourselves can like power ourselves. That one thing won't stop us.
Or what happens if when AI eventually develops its own form of like being able to program itself, like we said before with
Because
how they
eventually
can
that will happen.
exactly like saying how like they construct themselves and they replicate that way. Then there'd be
Yeah,
no human interaction with that. We wouldn't really have like a
Isn't that what we're
choice.
doing now? We're
Not
having
really.
AI learn. Well,
No,
kind of.
not really.
because like
Like
if
on a really.
the AI can get to that point, why shouldn't we treat it as like another person or another
Yeah.
being?
There, so like if you think about like the word or the term itself, AI, artificial intelligence, that means that it's not really intelligent. The idea of intelligence that you're perceiving from it is just it's artificial. It's not real. It is
Yeah,
it
because
is
the
intelligence that
information
is
you're putting it
yeah,
is the information you're giving it.
it's information gathered from a library, which are just big areas where information is stored, and then that's put into its processing units, and then that's conveyed through it to you. So in essence, they are only as smart as the information that is passed through them. That is their crux in reality. But there's a level even higher than artificial intelligence, which would be like sentient intelligence, which is what we as humans are, basically. We realize, like, I know I'm a human, you know you're a human, but in the case of like specifically animals don't know that they're an animal. They're like, oh, I exist. That's it. Unless an animal can look at itself in the mirror and say, hey, that's me, they're not sentient. They are just existing because that's just the way it is. They have cognizance of being alive, and that's all that they have. And
That,
that's
that,
Instinct.
that- that's
similar
actually
with
interesting because they did this one thing. I forgot exactly when it was, but they put this big mirror in this jungle, and like a lot of like apes and chimpanzees, they approached it and like they tried to like make sense of it.
yeah.
That's curiosity. You know,
It's sentience. It's
everything. Yeah,
recognizing what
everything
you
has
are.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Well, every natural thing has curiosity. You know, everything with a brain. Oh well, actually, no. Yeah, everything with a brain. I would say because plants don't, but they're plants.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I like where this conversation is going, and I do agree with a lot of the things that were being said. And Kyle, it is an interesting topic. It's just that kind of weary about the whole AI being the thing of the future.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and I think that would end the podcast off. We ended on a good note, and the next episode we will be discussing about government corruption.
And
Yeah.
the person in charge of that episode is going to be Eric. All right. See you guys next time.